Figured I'd use this old engine as a prop to explain this. And the question is if you have a newer car, newer than about what 2002 or 2005, somewhere in there, do you need to run premium fuel? And the answer is, does your car have a problem with detonation? And what is detonation? Detonation is basically pinging. So if your car is telling you when you floor it and you put the engine under a complete load, is it pinging from time to time? And if it is, then you do need to run premium fuel. If it isn't, then you're pretty much wasting your money by buying premium fuel. So I'm going to kind of go over what is detonation and why the newer cars have less problems with detonation compared to the older ones. So like one of my old trucks, this old 91 fuel injected truck has problem occasionally with detonation, and you know, if I put it under a load and I'm making it ping a lot, I should be running premium fuel in it. Of course, I'm too cheap. I don't buy it for this thing because it burns up fuel like no tomorrow. So on that really old engine that's really bulletproof, it's really not as critical as it is on like an air-cooled engine like this. This is an old VW engine, those of you guys who don't know. And on the what causes detonation? So what causes detonation is a few different things. Is basically the timing, the fuel mixture, and or the type of fuel or whatever is not at an optimum. So when the piston comes up and the spark plug fires, the spark plug is supposed to ignite the fuel and then, you know, make a burn. And if it's not 100% at the right time, or all these different factors in there, it will actually burn. I'm trying to think how to explain this. It will actually create a higher temperature, which creates a higher pressure in the combustion chamber. So that temperature creates an additional pressure that it's not used to, and that additional pressure causes the pinging sound that you hear in your engine, and that pinging is actually causing damage to your engine. So you know, you don't want to let it do that. If it's pinging, you want to really let off that gas, slow the car down, and let it not do that, because what's happening is it's from the heat partly, and there's heat. All these different things cause combustion. So like if you have a really old engine, like from the 70s, early 70s, when they had like 11-to-1 in a factory car, 1969 or something, it had like 11-to-1, some of the cars did, in compression ratios. And you have to have fuel that has additional octane for that. And in that case, even if you're having pinging issues, then you definitely need to run premium fuel. Now, on a VW, you should always run premium fuel as well because of the heat. Because the heat created by the engine, and because of the fact that there's no lead in the engine, in the gas anymore, they create a little more heat than they used to. So running premium fuel will help keep the detonation to, you know, basically to nothing, and you know, prevent that from getting hot. So that's the reason you're running on an old VW. But on a newer car, we're talking about newer cars here. Why would it be wasting money to put in premium fuel in most of the cars? Because it doesn't have any detonation. The newer cars, what's different on them is they don't have a normal distributor. The timing and everything is computer controlled, and it is meant to keep everything at an optimum. So the fuel mixtures are computer controlled, the timing is computer controlled, some of the cam timings are computer controlled. There's so many different factors in there that there's so much computer controlling that your chance of detonation is very low because they're keeping everything at an optimum. So like I said, the older cars, the reason that they got pinging is because they didn't have all this computer controlling and they didn't have everything at an optimum. The new cars have that stuff all under control because it has computer controlled type timing and all those different things to make sure it's managed well. So no, you won't get better gas mileage if you use premium. It's basically just to stop detonation. No, you're not going to get, you know, even on some of the turbo cars, you don't need to run premium fuel. Your engine will tell you. You need to listen to your engine. If you hear any kind of detonation pinging like that, you need to run premium fuel. If you don't, then you don't have that problem and your engine's well managed, and you probably would be just throwing money away by running premium fuel in your car. And you could use that money for something else. So anyway, that's kind of how the premium fuel thing works. So if you have a newer car and you don't have any pinging, save some money, put the money back in your pocket. It doesn't make any difference. It won't make your engine last longer. It doesn't make it run cleaner. It doesn't do any of those things. It just prevents the detonation from happening by using a higher octane, and that's basically all it is. But on an older VW, if you have one of these type of engines, it's just basically it's an insurance policy is what you're buying. Is because it's an air-cooled engine and it does have higher combustion temperatures. So what happens is, because it's not air-cooled, it's not water-cooled, where they have a more controlled combustion temperature, it always has that possibility if you're climbing a long hill or whatever and it gets hot and it can start to detonate. You might not even hear it inside the car. You might, and being this engine's really old and fragile, it can cause the engine to fail a lot quicker, and it might be something you don't even notice or hear when you're driving it. So that's basically the engine telling you that it needs more octane to battle against that. Plus, you might want to check your mixture on your fuel because something is not at an optimum. So your engine could be running a little hotter than it normally does, which is normal because the fuel back when they built these engines was different, had lead in it. The lead was designed as a cooling agent, for the fuel. So, and that would keep your valves and everything's cooler. So, and the reason you get detonation again is because you have an increased combustion temperature. Even though this engine's very low compression, the combustion temperature is high, so that causes potential detonation on the engine. And other things that cause that is because the piston doesn't fire at top dead center. It fires just below top. There's that much cylinder, at the top of your on top of your piston, so that contributes to that higher temperature. There's a lot of different things in the design of the engine that are that are putting that at risk. And if you get detonation in your engine, even if you don't hear it, you might not even notice it's happening. On these older engines, on the newer cars, probably you would notice it. You would hear it. You'd feel it. You'd notice. They're so much quieter than these old cars were, and this thing's so noisy going down the road, you wouldn't even notice it. So anyway, that's the reason that you run premium fuel in your VW, and in your newer car, there's really no benefit to it. There's no better gas mileage. There's nothing. One of my guys was running premium fuel in his truck, and I was like, dude, you're just throwing money away. He's like, what? I said, you're just throwing money away. There's no reason. And that engine, that thing is so well managed. It's got computer controlled timing. It has computer controlled, fuel. It has computer controlled everything, and because it has that, it has very unlikely possibility that it's going to reach detonation. Therefore, the fuel is just a waste of money. So he stopped using it and realized that his gas mileage was the same. The engine was running exactly the same as it was. There was no power difference. There was no fuel consumption change, and that's kind of how that works. There's no reason to have that extra refining done to your fuel on a newer car, but on the old ones, definitely there is. Talk to you in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.